I'm Grainne, compulsive eater. I weigh and measure 3 meals a day from the GreySheet. I turn you over to my sponsor. I don't eat no matter what, and I do eat my meals as committed no matter what. My abstinence is the most important thing in my life. And the reason I said I would qualify today is because I have been coordinating GreySheet counts and the GreySheet phone list, and I'm moderating the Grainne, which is the Yahoo group for GreySheeters. And so I get these tons and tons of newcomers coming in and asking me, the most simple, basic questions about GreySheet. And it reminds me of what it was like when I first started, how baffled I was by what GreySheet was all about. And it reminds me of how steep the learning curve is when you first get abstinent. I mean, it's like every day is mentally, emotionally, and physically challenging, trying to figure out how to do this, like how to build your life around these 3 meals, these 3 phone calls, the committed time with the sponsor, and what does it all mean, And there's so many, no matter how much time you spend with a newcomer, you can't possibly tell them all the things that will come up in the first 90 days, even in the first 10 days. So many issues will arise that there has to be that back and forth. And so it reminded me of my early days when I felt like I was going to drive my sponsor crazy with questions, just crazy with questions, and how it was all so strange. When I got abstinent, I first found GreySheet in 1993. And I really have no new way of telling this part of the story. It's the same old story that you all have heard so many times before, but I had struggled with food my whole life. I thought I was struggling with weight. I thought I was just a fat kid and a fat teenager, and that I had to control my food and lose the weight. And if I lost the weight, everything would be great. And I knew it had to do with the food, but I didn't realize my problem was the food. I thought the problem was the weight. So I fought eating every day, all day, from as early as I can remember, and I lost the fight every single day. And I never heard about any 12-step program related to food addiction. I heard about AA, but I knew nothing about it. I really imagined the cliche of an AA meeting. I imagined a bunch of toothless, gray-haired, hunched-over, miserable guys in dirty raincoats with a beer in a paper bag and coming in out from underneath the overpass, and shaking because they wanted a drink. That was my vision of AA. It was like miserable, dying, down and out drunks from Skid Row, and that's all I knew. And then one day, this woman, a friend of mine, whom I knew had a problem, she was going to a program. She's going to Sex Addicts Anonymous in Florida, and the minute she said that, I knew I needed to go, because my whole life I had struggled with just throwing my whole life aside if somebody would pay attention to me. Oh, you like me. You might love me. I might be okay. Forget my morals. Forget my standards. Forget my career. Forget it all. Forget my friends. I'll just do anything you want. And so the minute she said Sex Addicts Anonymous, I got on a plane and I flew to Florida, and I spent a week with her, and I went to meetings. And when I came back to Houston, I started going to SAA meetings, and it took me a year to get sober in that program. And when I got sober in SAA, it meant putting down drugs and alcohol as well. So I was sober from drugs, alcohol, and this sex and love addiction. So about 6 months into that sobriety, I suddenly heard all these people talking about Overeaters Anonymous. I thought, oh, there's another, I have that problem. This program worked for that original problem. That program will work for this problem. So I took myself, actually went to my therapist, and I said, I need to go to these OA meetings. And she said, yes, but I'll never forget, she pulled out this folded up piece of paper, and it was 1991. She pulled out this folded up piece of paper, and she unwrapped it, and it was like this big long sheet of paper, and she said, of these 101 OA meetings in Houston, you should just go to these 5. And she highlighted them. There was one on 5 days a week. And she said, these are the back to basics meetings. I didn't know anything. What do I know? So I started going to back to basics meetings. And in those meetings, they talked about the addiction to sugar. There was an addiction to sugar? I had no idea. I had never clocked that. It never occurred to me, never caught on that I craved sugar, and the more I ate, the more I wanted to eat of everything. And so I thought, okay, all right, sugar addiction, I got that, I can do that. But they also said some of us are carbohydrate and grain addicts. And I was like, no, that can't be me, because I'm a vegetarian and I have to eat grains, so I can't be a grain addict. And so I tried to weigh and measure 3 times a day from the various food plans that program offered me. I would try to weigh and measure 3 times a day, and I would put the grains on the scale, and I would eat them, and I spent the whole day fighting not to eat between meals. Like this is what we call white knuckling it. I just was hanging on for dear life, because every time I weighed and measured and ate those grains, they set up a craving for more of the same. And for everything, they just made me want to eat. And so I fought it and fought it and fought it. And every single day I would go to a meeting, I would call all these people, I would weigh and measure my food, but I couldn't. I would stay abstinent, then eat. Stay abstinent, then eat. And that went on for 2 years. And that will bring you to your knees. I tell you what, if anything is going to bring you to your knees, it's trying to moderate meal it, or weigh and measure the carbs and the grains, or make up your own food plan, which were all the things that I was trying to do in that program. And one of the things I realized at the time, I didn't realize it then, but I realize it now, is that there was nobody else doing exactly what I was doing with the food. There were people who had something that they called abstinence, but very few of them were normal weight. None of them talked about what they were doing with their food. And so when it got hard, I would never be able to say, well, so-and-so has been doing what I'm doing for X number of days or months or years, and she must have gone through hard times and survived, so I can go through hard times and survive. There was nobody else. So when it got hard, I would think, well, I just can't. I have to eat. There's nobody can get through this feeling without eating. So I would eat. And so 2 years of that, and I tell you what, I moved to Kalamazoo, Michigan, and I was driving to this OA meeting on a Sunday morning, and I thought, this is it. This is just fucking it. Excuse me my language for the recording, but that is kind of where I was. I was driving down past the Kalamazoo River on my way to the meeting at the Alano Club, and I was thinking, F this. I give up. I've tried everything. I can't do it. And I just can't do it. I'm just going to eat myself to death, forget about this trying every day and trying and calling and going to meetings. And I haven't got time to go to meetings anyway. I'm a busy woman. And so on one side, I'm saying I'm going to kill myself. I'm just going to eat myself to death. I'm going to be 400 pounds, locked in at the time I lived in an on-campus graduate apartments, little tiny apartments on campus. And I had this vision of them having to tear down the wall of their complex, the apartment complex, and come in with the front loader to pick my dead body up at 400 pounds and drag me out of there and bury me. That was the vision I had. And then there was also this part that said, well, I'm so important because I'm in this critical PhD program, and I just don't have time to be wasting time going to these stupid meetings that aren't working. So on one side, I'm just going to die a quiet life of desperation. On the other side, I'm this really important person who can't waste her time going to these stupid meetings. And that's the state of mind I was in. So I went to the meeting. I was thinking, this is the last of these effing meetings I'm going to. And I crawled down the stairs into this dim, dark, dank, cold, miserable basement of this AA club in Kalamazoo. And there were the usual suspects, just like this, a table just like this. There were about 6 women that used to go to the OA meetings there every week. And I knew, just like me, They had eaten on Saturday night. And just like me, they were going to cry about it on Sunday morning, and they were going to say, I won't do it again. It's horrible. I hate, oh, poor me. But today I'm going to do it better. And it's a new day, and progress, not perfection, and all the same old crappy cliches. And we did. Started at that corner, and the woman cried and said she ate last night, but she was going to do it better, and so did she, and so did she, and so did I, and so did the next woman. And then this bloody woman sitting in the corner, glowing with health and vitality. She was blonde, she was glamorous. And I was thinking, what the hell is she doing here? She's a normal body, and she's in the wrong, she should be upstairs with the AAs upstairs. And I just hated her because she was normal. And she said, my name is, and I weigh and measure 3 meals a day from the GreySheet. I turn those meals over to my sponsor. I don't eat no matter what. And a day at a time, I've been abstinent since July 27th, 1990, or whatever it was at that point. She had been abstinent for 3 years. And I just about almost fell off the chair. I couldn't believe that somebody had been abstinent for 3 years, weighing and measuring every day, every meal, committed to a sponsor without exception. I just couldn't believe it. And I knew that everybody, all of us miserable, fat son of a guns, were going to mob that woman at the end of the meeting and say, what's the solution? What's the solution? Tell me what to do. Tell me what to do. And I just had to get my way. I was determined. I was going to elbow my way up to that woman, and I was going to get her to tell me the solution. And the meeting ended, and everybody slunk up the stairs. Nobody wanted what she had. Nobody. So I was the only one who said, tell me what to do. Just tell me what to do. I don't care. I crawl over glass. I'll weigh and measure. I'll never eat in a restaurant again. I'll never eat with anybody else again. I'll eat sawdust for 3 meals a day. I don't care. Just tell me what to do. I give up. And that was the first time in my life I'd ever really given up. Before, I always thought, I still have the power of choice. I can make a decision. I get to decide. I'll eat this, I'll eat that, I won't use that food plan, I won't do what you do, I won't make calls, blah, 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 whatever. I always thought I got to decide. At that moment in time, I knew that I was going to die a slow and miserable death that was going to be exactly the same as all the previous years. There was going to be nothing, there was going to be unrelieved misery, nothing new for the rest of my life, which at that point I was 30 years old. I thought it was going to be a long, slow, miserable death. And I didn't want it. I was, metaphorically staring down the abyss, and I knew that this was my only choice, and I didn't care what it was. At the same time, there was that little devil on the shoulder saying, but tell her you're a vegetarian and you have to eat grains, and you can't eat, you have to eat certain foods. And on the other shoulder was this little angel saying, just shut up and do whatever she tells you. No, tell her that you have to eat certain foods. No, just shut up and do whatever she tells you. So the whole time she was explaining the GreySheet, I'm sitting there looking at the GreySheet, and I have this argument going back and forth in my head. And luckily, I just kept my mouth shut. And then she wrote up at the top of the GreySheet, her name, her phone number, 6 a.m. I was like, what? 6 a.m.? Oh my God. I've never woken up before 8 a.m. in my life. 6 a.m. And at the same time, I'm looking at the GreySheet thinking, I'm going to starve to death. Nobody can eat that little amount of food and survive. And, but shut up and do whatever she says. I said, okay. So I wrote down and I committed the next 2 meals, lunch and dinner. And I basically felt like I'm hunched over right now. I felt like this. I felt like I was all hunched over. And as I wrote it down and committed to her, I felt like this weight just lifted off my back, like this boulder that I had been carrying around my whole life was just lifted. And I felt like when I said goodbye to her, I floated up the stairs out of the basement of the Alano Club. I felt like I had lost 100 pounds already. And I weighed and measured lunch and dinner. I don't remember anything about it now, but I do remember that what I did every day was I wrote down my food the night before. I set my alarm for 1 minute to 6. I would have the food by the bed and the phone in the living room, because this was a long time before cell phones. And the alarm would go off. I would roll over, pick up the page, huddle, shuffle into the living room, pick up the phone, read her my food, shuffle back, and go back to bed. And then what would happen is I would wake up later on at more, a human time of 8 o'clock or something, and I would think, but I want to eat. And I think, but I already committed my food. Shit, I got to be abstinent. So I would, okay, I'm going to be abstinent today, just for today, but tomorrow I'm going to eat. I'm going to eat all you can eat from that Italian place. I'm going to go to that women's meeting where everybody brings potluck and you can eat as much food as you want. I'm going to make my favorite Irish thing that my mother taught me how to make. I'm going to eat tomorrow. But what the hell? I already committed my food. I better weigh and measure my food. And I would weigh and measure and eat that food. And the next day, I would wake up at 6 o'clock, commit the meal, go back to bed, wake up and think, what the hell have I done? I've committed again. I can't eat today. So that went on for about 6 months. And about 6 months in, I remember waking up and thinking, or at some point in the day going, I don't want to eat. It's gone. It's gone. The craving's gone. This woman in Missouri who says, it's like having a migraine your whole life, and then one day it goes away. That was it. It was like one day I was like, oh my God, I don't want to eat. I have not thought about food for hours. When did that happen? And I felt like looking back over the last few months, when did it happen? I don't know when it happened. But at some point, I stopped craving and obsessing over the food. And from then on, it's just been a matter of how will I be abstinent, not if I'll be abstinent. It's a question of how do I go to India for 3 weeks and weigh and measure my meals? How do I travel to Ireland and work around Europe and weigh and measure? How do I camp in the woods for 5 weeks every summer while weighing and measuring my food? How do I do it when I'm interviewing for jobs and they want me to go to lunch? How do I date and go out to dinner and weigh and measure my food? How do I weigh and measure when I'm sick, when I have surgery, when I'm on a plane for 10 hours, when I don't speak the language? How do I weigh and measure? And it was never of if, it was going to be how. And so the thing that got me through was all the other GreySheeters who have done all those things before. And I knew if they could climb the mountains of Nepal while weighing and measuring, I certainly could while, walking through the woods in California or something. And if they could get run over by a train and be lying in bed for 6 months with their mother spoon feeding them their abstinent food, I certainly could weigh and measure through optional surgery. So it was knowing that all around the world there were other people doing exactly what I did with their food, and they got through, so I could too. And that's the difference, I think, between why this worked for me and the previous program didn't work, is that we all do the same thing and we do it no matter what. Thanks.
Thank you, Grainne.